Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artist Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. And now, here's our host for today's podcast, Max Wickemeyer.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier with another podcast episode. And we have, I usually say an interesting guest or whatever, or a special guest. But this is an interesting guest for the simple reason is that they are a writer. And they write about what it is that they do so that you can go and do what they do. Are you curious enough yet? Well, I'm going to let the guests do what I normally have them do, is to introduce themselves, spell their names, and we'll get rolling.
Hey, Ron, it's Tom Lopatosky from LOPCO Contracting. How you doing today, Ron?
I'm doing good.
Very good, very good. And if you need the spelling of my name, it's L-O-P as in Peter, A-T as in Tom, O-S-K-Y like sky. And I'm the owner of LOPCO Contracting. We're a painting and repair contractor. And as Ron said, I've written a couple of books on home improvement, and I'd love to talk to people about it and offer suggestions and tips and things of that nature. And it's certainly been a couple fun projects of mine.
Wow, a couple. I only knew of one, so
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, I did the first one. That was the original one. It was called The Care and Maintenance of a New England Home. And I followed it shortly thereafter, within a year afterwards, with a book called The Care and Maintenance of a Block Island Home, because we do quite a bit of work on Block Island and Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them were very fun to do. They both are available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And they're both really aimed at coaching clients through, I say clients, but it could be anybody really, anybody that buys the book or reads the book, through the different ideas of home improvement and how they may be applicable to their homes. And if it may be ideas for different projects to be done around the home, it may be how to do certain projects around the home. Each book has, I believe, 250 plus tips in it. Hardy reads. They're coffee table books, as how I like to describe them, because they're pretty thick. And it's not something that I think is really meant for a specific genre of home, like a beach house or a Victorian. It kind of runs the gamut. If it is a housing stock that is in New England as the main book, we can focus on that one. And then it falls under the category of somebody that could probably get some value out of reading this book.
Yeah, that immediately triggered a memory. I had the honor and privilege of working with and being trained by Max Farrow, or Maximilian Farrow, who was training when I was working for the Mayor's Office of Historic Preservation in New Bedford. Mm-hmm. He trained us in what to look for in buildings so that we could date them. And he wrote a book called How to Love and Care for Your Old Building in New Bedford.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's in the same vein.
Exactly. And on another note, this was at the advent of home inspections. It was a brand new thing.
Really? Yeah.
There's a guy named Fred Storch from Fall River.
Okay.
I think it was Storch Home Inspections, or he might have had a different name to it.
Yeah.
But he came out with a 57-point home inspection theory or process.
Yeah.
And because, again, it was so brand new and you had to pay for it, obviously. Yeah. And then he put out, we discussed that. We just discussed the fact that I wanted to print the 57 things that he did and put it like on a foldable piece of, very large paper, like foldable piece of paper, like a map, like an old-fashioned map. And he's like, why would I want to do that? I said, because so people would know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. He went and did it.
Yeah.
And then he said, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
This thing is the best thing. I said, why? Why, Fred? He said, because you know what you said, right? people would see but they also try to do what I do.
Yeah.
And some guy's in his crawl space, covered in cobwebs, with a flashlight, looking up at some pipes, going, "What the hell am I looking at?"
Well, that's the thing with a lot of these types of situations is you tell people what to do, but even if you explain to them how to do it, actually executing it is an entirely different thing. And again, depending on how somebody's made up, their acumen in terms of past history, even though I could tell you till I'm blue in the face, like the correct way to make sure your door fits an opening and doesn't get stuck on you in the middle of the summer, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it like somebody that's been doing that for decades. So that's good that he came across that. I'm glad his eyes were wide open after actually doing it. I'm glad he did it.
Yeah. I mean, it's and then of course too, there's a smaller. I'm assuming that in your book that there are things that you don't mind them doing because they're smaller, and as you've grown, you can't get to, and that's I guess as a painting contractor and repair contractor, you get to at that point where you can no longer service those customers with the small needs. Correct?
Well, to a degree. I mean, there's you did hit the nail on the head. The one asterisk I would put along with that is that we would go to one of the islands to paint a door or install a doorknob. It's going to be the most expensive doorknob you ever put in your life. But you theoretically you could hire us to do that, but it's much more cost efficient. Certainly if you could do it on your own, but maybe even having a handyman that's all they do is just like odd tasks and this and that. And most communities have a few of these folks putzing around there that would love to help you out with it. But to your point, Ron, it really makes sense a lot of times for somebody to either do it themselves or hire somebody that's kind of what they do, the odds and the ends type of thing. Than hiring a company a bit bigger. Yeah.
It's funny, as an artist, a trained artist, BFA, MFA, all that stuff, and very fortunate to have had an incredible materials and techniques course instructors.
Yeah.
There are things that you learn, and it's just like, and my dad and my grandfather used to get together and have their own painting business back in the day. Yeah. It was funny because they were like oil and water, but for some reason, and they had this passion for painting.
That's a nice tagline, actually, right there.
Yeah. And I also learned from them. I was telling my grandson, we were at a job, and I was putting the lid back on the can of paint. And I told him, every time I do that, I think of Pepe, because there's certain things that he taught me that I will never forget. And I feel he's standing there next to me.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was scared to death that he was standing there next to me.
He actually was, yeah.
How many times I have to tell you how to do it, So, and he's like, you put the lid on. Or first of all, you clean the rim, and then you drop the lid on, and then you put a cloth, a painter's cloth, a rag over the top of the lid, and then you hit it with the hammer.
Yeah.
But there's two things going on there at the same time. You don't hit it with the face of the hammer. You hit it with the side of the head of the hammer, because the head will the face of the hammer will dent the rim, and it's going to make it useless. How people like really whack away at it. And the other thing too is if there's any paint still left in the rim, it's not going to splash up in your face.
Correct. Yeah.
And
the other thing with that, and I may have showed this to you at that time. Is it becomes kind of a touch, or like I don't know how you would say it. Like you got to get a feel for it, because you still want to whack that rim with the lid. You don't want to hit it in the middle of the can.
Oh no!
But like you said, Ron, you want to do it in a way that you're not gonna like dent the rim. You know? So
you
got to really hit it on the rim to nail it down. Yeah. But that's funny that you mentioned that's exactly how you should do it. Yeah.
Because what I'm segueing into is that there is an art to it.
Yes.
And I still remember my grandfather. We were going someplace, and he saw somebody painting. He's like, "That guy's not painting." I said, "Looks like he's painting to me." He said, "No, he's just putting paint on a surface." And I said, "Isn't that painting?" He said, "No, those are shingles. Those are split shingles. You have to rub the paint in there, because if you're going to just put it on the top, And so it's all these little
Yeah.
things that I use in my practice as a quote unquote, fine art painter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So what are some of the where did you come up from? Because people always want to know that.
Yeah, no, it's a question I always get asked, and they just assume in a lot of cases that I had a family in the trades, and I just kind of took over the business or just went in a different arm of the business. But that's very not what happened. Very much not what happened. I grew up in a place in Providence, in the Oneyville section of Providence in Rhode Island.
Hot dogs.
Yeah, Oneyville, New York system wieners, and definitely grew up on those since I was
right,
born,
yeah,
basically. Yeah. And both my parents were teachers. I really never saw a paintbrush until I decided to get into the painting industry when I was 18 years old, and that was in 1995. So if you do the math, I've been at it for well over 30 years at this point. And I really just was doing it to pay my way through school. I was just kind of I was going to Bryant University in Smithfield, Rhode Island at the time, and I had to cover the cost of my education. So I had to be a little creative in terms of the way that we did that. And that was what I saw some guys painting on a ladder one day. I was like, I think I could do something like that. That looks like, how hard could it be? Well, enormously hard. But I didn't know that at the time because you're 18. What do you know? You think you know everything, but you really know next to nothing.
Right. The only thing you have is stamina.
Exactly. And I had a whole lot of it. So made a lot of boo-boos, but you learn along the way by making those mistakes. And I started off with the company as just a painting company, just painting outside, actually. I would paint outside in the summers in college like a lot of folks do. But then I got to this point where we graduated in college, I should say, and I had to make that decision. Do I keep going with the business or do I go try to get a job with somebody else? And I thought to myself, well, I could always get a job with somebody else, but let's do this painting thing and see how far it takes me. So over time, we developed the interior portion of our business. We started to do repair items because as we're getting into the exterior painting in particular, you come across a lot of rotted wood, and you got to learn how to fix that, whether that means entirely replace the piece of rotted wood or repair it through different woodworking means. There's different ways that you could do that. And a lot of the other painting contractors weren't doing that. They were just, if they saw something that was rotted, they would tell the client they'd have to get a carpenter to come in and fix it. And when it's fixed, to call the painter back, and then the painter would paint it. But with us, I'm like, why don't we just have a carpenter?
Right.
And that grew our business tremendously, just being able to do that. And we were off to the races. So 30 plus years later, here we are.
Yeah, it makes it's common sense too, because I mean, you're gonna find loose flashing, loose shingles, or pop nails, because maple has a tendency of like rejecting metal.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of things, and and not of which at least is moisture management, which is we could paint that till the cows come home. It's gonna peel off in 6 months again because it's the moisture is pushing it through. Has nothing to do with paint failure, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that we really were able to become highly specialized at was identifying those types of moisture issues, Ron, and not just the ones failures related to moisture, but just in general that people in our industry didn't know to look for, even on the supply side. And we get into situations over the years where paint peeled on something. The client was looking at the painter was blaming the manufacturer was blaming the painter, everybody's blaming the paint, and none of that is actually the truth as to why it was peeling. A lot of times you get this wood that comes out of this mills, especially in certain decades with us in this area, definitely in the 80s, the 90s, and into the 2000s, where it had this phenomenon that's known as mill glaze, as one example, that would get on these pieces of wood as they were going through the milling process and get embedded in the fibers. Can't see it, it looks like a regular piece of wood, but as it gets embedded into those fibers, it creates this impermeable barrier that just does not allow the paint to soak into the wood. And it peels. A lot of times people initially miscategorize that as being a moisture issue, and that's why it's peeling. But the really truth of the matter is that paint doesn't have a shot of penetrating because that mill glaze is there. And we became really keen at identifying those types of issues and not only identifying them, but be coming up with solutions to solve them without having to reside the side of the house or something dramatic along those lines.
Yeah, in fact, wasn't that also along the period of time where a lot of wood was starting to come in from China, believe it or not?
Yeah.
Because I remember working at the lumber yard. I mean, a lot of the milling, the door frames, window frames, before getting into the vinyl was happening too.
Yeah, and I was coming from different places where people had no idea where it was coming from, whether it's China or any place else. Though most of our softwood theoretically comes from Canada, most of our western red cedar comes from the western United States, but with a lot of these prefab door frames and things of that nature, you got a lot of that foreign wood involved, Ron, that's not necessarily built to stand up to the New England environment that we kind of go in and out of with the weather every year.
Yeah. So let me ask you this really crazy question. Mm-hmm. When people ask me, "What do you do?" I say, "Oh, I'm a painter." "Oh, do you do exteriors?" I'm like, "No, I'm a fine art painter." Do you ever get the opposite?
Well, you know what the funny thing is? Once in a while, maybe, but what we often get is, and I have to correct people. I think about trying to be proactive about this all the time. Is people will know that they hired us to paint the outside of the house, but the thought never dawned on them to ask us if we paint interior too. And they'll look for somebody to paint the inside of the house when it's time, unless we can cut them off at the pass and remind them. Back years ago, I wasn't as good as reminding them that not only do we paint outside, but we paint inside too. And the reverse is true also. There's a lot of people we were painting the interiors for. They didn't think that we painted outside. And I just never thought to tell them at the time, but I don't make that mistake anymore, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, that's not odd, because I remember when I had my advertising agency, a really, really good client. I used to do, I think we won awards for the radio ads that we did.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, all excited. Hey, you want to come and see the new TV commercial that we just did? And I'm like, sure, but why didn't you ask me?
Yeah.
Oh, you only do radio, right?
Yep, same thing. Same thing. Isn't that crazy?
And it was like that awkward silence between, I'm just as guilty.
Yeah, no, I've been there, man, and it's 100% the same thing, and you're just like, man, how could but you learn, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause
Yeah.
when that happens, and it's happened a number of times, that you just try to get out in front of it now and try to let people know, yes, not only do we paint inside, but we paint outside, or vice versa.
On that note, though, of artistic endeavors,
Yes.
Do you have any visual performing, literary? Because you never know who you're speaking with. I mean, you could be like because your business has been established for 3 decades or more.
Yeah.
You could be a stand-up comic for all I know on the side.
Definitely not any other arm of art, I'd say, other than the literary arm. And I had to be pointed out that it was actually considered an art, and you were so gracious to do that at one time when we met up at a meeting a while back, and I didn't even realize it. I thought I was just a writer, and I just enjoyed writing. I've been writing for a long time. I was not very, very good at drawing anything but a stick figure or coloring in the lines. I can't really do that. But this ability to write, I really like that. I enjoy writing. And what I often had challenged myself with was writing X amount of words. So say it's like 500 to 800 words on the most mundane thing that you could possibly think of when it related to home improvement. So to give you an example, you could hand me a screw, like a regular screw of some type.
Something out of an old coffee can kind
Correct,
of thing?
yeah. Pick a screw.
Pick a screw, yeah.
Now, write a 500 to 800 piece article on this screw. And I would do that. And I did it over and over and over and over again. And that developed the ability to write in this particular sphere.
So it wasn't dry technical as a technical writer. It was more a narrative, anecdotal kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a home improvement show on the radio in Rhode Island every Saturday at 2 p.m. on a WPRO, and one of the folks that was behind me, his name is John Laughlin. He'd been my lead-in show for quite some time, and he bought the book and he read it, And he'd often give critiques about it on the air, just giving people pointers about why he liked it. And that's exactly what he would say. He'd say, you know what, this isn't just dry, like we use that screw, for example. It's not just Tom talking about a screw, just like giving you all the technical, boring points about it. I would take that and try to incorporate it in some type of story that not only told about this particular screw, what it was used for, how it was used for, etc., but also put like a little bit of humor in there and things of that nature that would keep the reader hopefully engaged and read the entire piece. So, and he used to point out to that different stories in the book about that. And I really was glad he did it because it was something intentional. It's not like I was doing that accidentally, but I just knew that there's a billion stories out there in terms of the technical side of whatever. You know?
Oh, yeah. There are. I mean, in fact, that's actually an entire book on the screw. I read one about Brunelleschi's dome, about how they got the dome on the church of Santa Maria della Fiore in Florence. And you would think it's a dome, but it was like a huge technological thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they did one on the screw, and I didn't realize up until reading that book that's how the armor, the knights in armor, they used to screw them in.
Really?
Then you go back to Archimedes and how screws were used to lift water, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So, have you thought of, while writing a book, damn, I'm going to write something about something else other than painting and screws and...
Yeah, no, it's funny. I have...
Especially going to Block Island. I mean, there's got to be so many stories.
Yeah, I have like a roster of like 7 books I'm working through right now.
Wow.
That I'm trying to write. I've got 2 down, so there's 5 more I go that are on the radar screen at this point. And the one I'm actually finishing up now, outside of the home improvement industry, I also own a competitive cheerleading gym. And I've done that for the past 10 years. And basically, it's kind of like your local high school or Pop Warner type cheerleading thing, but on steroids. I mean, it's the best, it's the most exciting gymnastics, dance, traditional cheerleading elements, all mixed into one. Again, you put it on steroids and put it out there, and it's just this big, crazy, wild thing. And so I'm writing a book about that, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to call it. It could be the ultimate guide to all-star cheerleading, or it could be the cheer dad's guide to all-star cheerleading, because obviously I'm a dad. That's how I got into it in the first place. And I don't know. It's on the home stretch, though. It's kind of being finished up, where it's interesting, where in this particular book, every book is different. It's very different from the care and maintenance of a New England home. With care and maintenance of a New England home, as an example, that was literally meant to be a coffee table book. I wanted this book to be, okay, somebody in the family just bought a house. You need to have this book as a gift. Give it to them as a gift. It stays on the coffee table. Maybe people read a story here and there when they're sitting down, like once in a while. It's very few people, I'm sure, read it all the way through, but it's a nice book to kind of read different snippets in. This other book is not like that. It's geared toward an entirely different audience, and one of the big differences is it's not meant to be a coffee table book. It's
a manual.
Yeah, like a manual / guide / kind of resource book for anybody that's getting into this world that has no idea what they're getting into because they've never heard of it before. They just know their daughter wants to get into it, and they just kind of want to read up on it a bit. And so there's a lot of pictures. It's a different page stock. When you come out with a book, it's interesting because if you've never written a book before, there's a lot of things that go into coming out with a book besides the actual writing. The writing is just one element of it. The things that you got to think about when you're writing a book are how big is your book going to be? How many pages? Is it going to be a high glossy cover? Is it going to be like a artistic drawing on the cover, or is it going to be like a picturesque drawing? Is it going to be bigger book? Is it going to be in terms of dimensionally, or is it going to be a smaller book? Is it going to be thick? Is it going to be thin? Is it going to be a certain type of page stock? And talking about the type of pages that the material is printed on, Is it going to be glossy? Is it going to be matte? There's so many things that go into this that you just, like, at the end of the day, sometimes you're like, geez, I just want to write a book. You know?
I can almost imagine with a cheerleading book, there'd be a fold-out section.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to have like a big layout
Very visual.
photograph, Very
visual. Yeah.
And I'm also assuming, I think cheerleading is probably totally misunderstood because people, it's like sugar.
Yeah.
You like sugar, but you're not going to eat a cup of sugar. And I think that's what a lot of people think that cheerleading is. It gets to that point where it's, and also we've also seen them, use cheerleaders in horror movies.
Yeah. Of course.
So there's a lot of social, historical, right?
Yes. Yeah, it has a lot of stereotypes historically that, I those in the industry probably think are cute, but like if they were to see kind of what we do every day, it is like intense. It's like a whole other. People come to like our practice or see our kids perform, and they're like, "Whoa!" Like
it's gymnastics with a purpose.
Yes.
And would you say that
absolutely.
some of cheerleading kind of creeped into gymnastics and vice versa? Because you see some of these routines and.
Oh yeah, I would say that the type of cheerleading that we do is heavily influenced by gymnastics, by dance, and by certain elements of traditional cheerleading, and you kind of mix them all together. But yes, there's a strong influence of all that.
Right. And I'm also assuming because people are just really freaked out and homophobic and stuff like that about boys being in cheerleaders.
Yeah, and traditionally, actually,
it was it was guys with the cheerleaders.
Yeah,
right.
And that was certainly the case when I was coming up. And I used to see a couple of friends of mine that were like big football players, and they went to a local university, and they were on the cheer team. And I'm like, man, I thought just like you said that cheerleaders are wired a certain way, like from that standpoint. But that's entirely not true, and I understood later why they were doing it. I mean, from a guy's standpoint in college, you get to meet a lot of
girls, women,
absolutely,
right.
Or they
and
just
they need somebody in the base.
Yeah, I mean, it works both ways, and it's be developed into like a highly. Whereas that may have been the case like years ago, especially in the higher levels. It's certainly developed athletically into something that's entirely not that. I mean, granted. The way I look at our gym, and it's actually in our mission statement, is it's as inclusive an environment as you're ever going to find in sports. It don't matter kind of how you're wired from a person's standpoint, regardless of any of that.
Regardless of gender,
religion, cultural, sexual makeup,
orientation.
Yeah. I mean, there's still. Overall in the sport, it's definitely dominated by the female presence, but there is probably more male interest in the sport because, especially on the higher levels, because they see how difficult the athletic portion of it has been becoming, that it does have a little bit of a magnet to it. And if they could kind of cross that bridge of the traditional stereotypes, get past that, it can be a heck of a good time athletically and challenge for anybody that wants to get involved, regardless of kind of how they might be made up personally, man, woman, or anything in between these days. Yeah.
It's almost the same thing with ballet because we all know a ballerina, but what do you call a male ballet dancer?
Good question.
And I know that from working in the opera and with ballet as well, way back when I was a set designer, that the guy, the male ballet dancer, because again. I just realized I don't know a term for that.
Yeah.
They were. It was because of their strength.
Sure. Yeah.
That they could. There was one. It was a. I forgot the name of the ballet, but this thing was. It was about. From mythology, it's a parallel. I don't think it was based on that, but Dana. Escaping the grips of Apollo, where she prays to her mother. Or was it Persephone? She prays to her mother, which was a goddess, to save her from this guy because he was hot and heavy going after her, and she turned into a tree.
Yeah.
Well, in this particular ballet, she runs up the male dancer, up his arm. Which was, athleticism on this thing. And I had to get the lighting correct on stuff. And he holds her with one arm.
Yeah.
And she's on point.
Yeah.
On point. You know, in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
And they're as steady as a rock.
Yeah. It's crazy
because
as
they're
it seems.
frozen. They're frozen.
I
right?
can connect the dots in an interesting way here.
Yeah.
So, do you remember Baryshnikov?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mikhail Baryshnikov, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, top of his, like, literally the top of ballet.
Right.
As a high point. His daughter and I actually worked on a number of projects together.
Wow.
Yeah, her name is Shura, and she lived in Providence for quite some time. I've lost touch with her over the last several years, but she was actually a designer. And I want to say she may have even went to Brown. I could be botching that, though. But somehow she ended up in Providence. And she's fantastic. We worked on a number of projects together. She was the designer that would come up with the colors and things of that nature. And we'd execute the project. But as crazy as that sounds, yeah. I mean, that's one of those odd stories that kind of connect things, I guess. But
that's true. Now, because of Block Island, and because of, did you say Cuddy Hunk as well? There was a.
Well, I'm actually looking at getting more and more involved there.
Mike Rotundo would be a very good, from Portside Solar.
Correct.
Like
I was actually at the Cuddy Hunk Ferry Company yesterday.
Okay.
Ironically, as you mentioned that, because that is something that we haven't really delved into too much as a business, but we're kind of creeping toward it. But yeah, I was actually there yesterday.
and again, I get triggered by the memories. It's not like some sort of like ping pong or pinball running off of my head, but in the care and keeping of old homes too. It was a friend of the family. His name was Jimmy Buckles, and I lost touch with him. And the other day in traffic, I saw him with a really nice-looking van, and he was a young man. Yeah, and he had this incredible X-ray ability, and I think because he worked with somebody in the family that. Worked on old houses, knew about knob and tube and all those, those old electrical systems. Sure. And he could just like look at a wall and know exactly where to cut. And I saw he actually did a house where there was beadboard. Yeah. And he cut the beadboard out in such a way to access the wall. Mm-hmm. And you could stare at that wall and not figure out how the heck he got into that wall until you got into it really, really carefully. Yep. So there is an art. There is it's beyond craft.
100%. Yeah.
It's beyond craft. Yep. But and I had a house that was built in 1906, so I learned a lot, and I had been taught a lot working in historic preservation, but I learned a heck of a lot. Yeah. So. Would you say, in a way, that's become a specialty, old houses?
Yes.
I mean, you paint any, pun intended, any old house. But
there has been an awful lot of movement within the last several years of pushing folks back into the trades, especially with the advent of AI as an example, where AI is certainly changing the workplace for a wide variety of folks. Just causing, everybody to really adapt to this kind of newer world that we're working into. But one of the things that the trades in general have been pushing, particularly lately, is that, as much as artificial intelligence has come along, it may be a little ways off before the average person is going to hire them, meaning like a robot or something like that, to do a roof or to paint the room or to do something along those lines. That's probably a little far out a ways from our lifetimes. Maybe someday it probably will happen, but right now there's a push in the trades because there's going to be so much opportunity out there because there for our longest time people had shied away from getting involved in the trades. They just were not getting involved. They looked at it almost kind of demeaningly in terms of the plumber, the painter, or whatever. And I kind of got attracted to it the opposite. As I was coming into the business, that I just looked at that happen. I'm like, man, everybody's running away from the trades. That must mean that there's going to be some opportunity here. And I jumped into it. And to your question, that one of the things is the more niche-oriented something is, like an historic home, where it really needs some TLC in a certain way, there's not as many folks that know how to work on old homes these days anymore. I mean, at some point there may be with this influx of tradespeople that we have coming into the workforce, but there's certain things that you're not going to be able to find somebody to do easily. Just something maybe that at one point in time was as commonplace as hanging wallpaper. You're not going to find like a tremendously high number of talented people that know how to hang wallpaper these days.
Right.
Back in the day, a lot of times our moms hang the wallpaper and they did fantastic at it.
I mean, I only know of one primarily in this area who does high-end homes.
Yeah.
He's also a painter, fine artist.
Yeah.
Steve Remick.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're talking the high-end, almost hand-printed. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And for a while there, you think it's a design trend that like no wallpaper on new homes is like because there was nobody to hang it.
Correct.
And once you've tried to do it yourself,
Yeah.
you says, to hell with this, I'll never do this again in
Oh,
my
it's
life,
awful.
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect to it. Yeah. And there was also, at a point in time when vinyl, first it was aluminum siding, then vinyl took over. People were ripping off corbels and brackets.
Oh,
and
it's awful.
They were just
I know. Hacking away at it. Yeah.
They were plain Janing these royal ladies.
I know.
And now it seems like people want to come back to that.
Yeah, we actually have a number of folks that reached out to us over the years that want to bring it back to what it was. So in other words, you have to peel back whatever was put on there, restore the elements that were removed,
Right.
and just kind of work backwards almost. But yeah, there is greater appreciation in some circles for these older homes, and people that move into them know that what they're getting into to a degree, but they do it with the intent of bringing it back to what it once was.
And I think too, because there have been improvements in paint technology.
Yeah.
In my old home, for example, I was paint stains versus paint. I mean, because a stain, a solid stain is sometimes way better. Like for my case, it was. I mean, the shingles were put on that house in 1906. So, and you got to deal with preparation and stuff. But even on the south side of the house, which took up, it was so hot on that side of the house. If you touched the doorknob on the entry door, you would burn yourself.
Well, it's funny. If you did that in the middle of January on a negative 20-degree day, you'd still have the same thing. That doorknob would still be warm.
Yes,
it's just the way that sun on that south side just heats everything up.
Right.
And the metal, especially the
Right.
metal. If you touch that, you'll be. This is crazy. It's 5 degrees outside. Why is this hot?
Oh, that was a tap there. Hold on. And on the west side of the house, it was like, oh my God, the paint will stay. This will last forever.
Yeah. North side as well. Yeah. Literally. I mean, you might get a little bit of mold or that green mold or mildew on it, but
Well, speaking of which, and I know we're going off topic from writing books, but it seems like after Hurricane Gloria that there was an uptick in mold and mildew.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of situations I recall specifically where something may be fine from a mold and mildew standpoint for years, and then something happens that triggers. It could be like something like that, like what happened after Gloria, but something triggers a change in the environment where all of a sudden the mold and mildew is starting to grow someplace where it never did before. And that's not necessarily unusual. It's funny because it's one of those things. We offer a 5-year warranty in what we do. But mildew is one of those things, and mold, that we can't warranty against, because at the end of the day, it is an environmental condition, and changes in the environment could cause it to grow. And if it wants to grow someplace, it's just going to grow there. So, that is correct. There could be something that triggers that particular type of growth, even though the paints and products we use are as mildew and mold resistant as they ever have been.
Right. Yeah, and I've noticed mostly on vinyl. It's a sterile environment for them to unsterilize.
That's a good way to put it.
One of the things I was thinking about too, with your books, you said as a gift, it'd be perfect to get hooked up with a couple of realtors and say, hey, this is a great, especially when they're selling high-end old properties. Because, the other thing too is it's Cy Sims, who was a retailer up in Boston, I think it was, used to say an educated consumer is the best consumer.
Yeah. I think an educated consumer could be a double-edged sword. It's nice to have them educated, but they could be a little too educated.
Now they're your partner.
Correct. Yeah. Now they know everything there is to know about whatever it is that you happen to be doing.
Right.
And
So, what good or great experiences have you had because of the book, and it prepared the customer to interact with you? Because there's always that one eye that'll like looking at you. That one eye, like, is he BSing me or is this for real?
I mean, for the biggest thing, it's probably been one of the better credibility boosters in what I do every day that one could ever ask for. So much so that I've been actually called as an expert witnesses in court with regard to home improvement disputes that have gone on. So painting in particular, I remember one time I was called into court in New Bedford, actually not too long ago. There was a homeowner that had a big disagreement with the contractor that they had hired to do whatever it was that they had hired them to do in the home. And this was right on the water, may have been in Acushnet, not too long ago though. And they called me on the stand, and it was funny, the person on the other side that was against our client, he called me out in front of the courtroom, and the judge and he was just like, so you're gonna advocate on behalf of what their testimony is today, correct? I'm like, yes. And they're like, what makes you such a expert that you could you feel that our court, that the judge and the court should listen to you? So obviously in a case like that, I'm like, man, in your head, you're like, you want to be kind of humble, but like, this guy doesn't know who I am. And then you can just kind of put out the credentials. I've like been in the home improvement business for over 30 years. I got the weekly home improvement shows on the radio that hundreds of thousands of people listen to on a weekly basis. Right. But I've also written a 500-page book relating to all these issues that my people over have an issue with your people, Yeah. So that kind of silenced them pretty good. He just kind of gave a little smile. He obviously never bought the book up until that point. Don't know if he's bought it since, but but in those situations, it's entirely helpful. It's a big credibility booster, not just situations like that, but just people that if you're looking at, say, 3 contractors to hire for a project and the prices kind of all over the place, part of it is the deal is, okay, you're going to hire this particular person that's maybe a bit of a wild card, or you just don't know too much about them, but they seem like they know what you talk about, or you're going to hire the person that literally wrote the book on the subject. And it comes with all those credentials if you can do it.
Right.
So it's a lot. That's been an interesting byproduct of the book, Ron, is just I guess the credibility booster that has been for me personally as relates to kind of what we do every day with the business. Yeah,
and too, it probably helps dispel a lot of myths, and it probably also has a lot of aha moments in there for the reader, going, because they remember doing something themselves that, like, that's why that didn't work.
Correct. Yeah, I'll give an example. It's just like sometimes if you have a clapboard sided house, people see the gaps underneath the butts in the clapboards, and they think, man, that looks like crazy. I gotta caulk that so like it looks all nice. But exactly, no, because what happens, and you know where I'm going with this, is that if you caulk that gap, it prevents the house from being able to expand and contract and breathe naturally.
Right.
And you're gonna have some monumental problems because of that. And so that's an example of something that somebody may read in the book that they're just like, oops, I just caulked my clapboards last week.
That was like composite material decking when it first came out. People didn't gap it correctly.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then they'd go out on it. They worked all Saturday, putting it together, and then Sunday morning they go out there to have their coffee on their new deck, and it looks like an accordion. And they're like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Situation like that. Yeah. So there's all those types of things in there, and I try to make it as varied as possible, with just heads up tips like that, with the clapboard and with the accordion style composite decking that you might find yourself into if you don't space out your boards appropriately as you're installing them, all over the gamut, and hopefully catching people before they do something.
I want to quickly go back to the trade school thing, and then wrap up. One of them is I had done some promotional work for one of the trade schools way back when, And you go to all the shops and so on and so forth. And I saw the paint. It was painting and decorating. Mm-hmm. And I got to be honest with you. Back then, it wasn't very inspiring for somebody who thought that they would want to get into the painting and decorating trades, because it looked like the individuals that were in those shops were the painting and decorating department. And I don't want to get any pushback on this. It was an observation, not okay.
Sure. Yeah.
That they were marginal, and it was better than that shop than any other shop. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe if other people have that kind of impression too. But so much has changed. Nothing ever stays the same forever. And also, when I had my agency, we were doing a survey for home heating fuel, and sometimes you get answers to questions you didn't even know you asked.
Yeah.
And there was this demographic that kept popping, and it was like 22 to 25-year-old guys who were contractors who had a mortgage and a pickup truck payment. And we're like, how can you? And then we went back and found out they were vocational school graduates.
Yeah.
And, you either work for somebody, you pick up side jobs, or you just hang out your shingle, so to speak, and you start working.
Yeah.
And then people caught up, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases to go to college. And they're, the old cliche, they're flipping burgers.
Yeah.
And they see their neighbor or childhood friend who's going on a Caribbean cruise and has got a house, and all this guy does is, using the quote unquote, all this guy does is bang nails.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean it's that's always kind of been there, but like it's become even more prevalent, I think, especially since the pandemic, where it was just so hard to find anybody to do anything. A lot of people said that people just, their eyes opened and saw what opportunity there was in the trades. And I could tell you that I sit on a board of a few different trade schools. And basically, usually when I'm involved with the board, it's just to kind of give the okay on the curriculum that they may have that year, and see if there's anything more relevant that I'm seeing in the field that they should invoke, and that they may not be as in tune in the classroom just because they're not in the field every day. But these vocational environments, whether it's an in-school, high school kind of technical environment, or if it's a post-secondary vocational school, they mean business. It's very different these days. I mean, they're there to have fun, but they're also there to learn. The ones that I'm involved with, at least, that I have more of, that I'm more in touch with and see, students are very engaged, very intent on learning, because they do, I think, overall see the opportunity that's ahead of them, like you just said.
Yeah.
And the best thing is, when you get out, you have such opportunity there. Like you said, it runs the gamut. You could go union, you could go on your own, you could go work for somebody else, and no matter which path you take in a lot of these trades, whether it's HVAC, electrical, plumbing, painting, whatever it is, you're going to be a lot better off than, like you said, Ron, your next door neighbor who went and got a psychology degree or like a history degree for like 4 years, and may have a challenge trying to find something that they like to get into after they get out of school, and they got the debt that goes along with that. Right. We don't have that there. You got out of school pretty much debt free, with a very good paying job afterwards,
right? And probably even picking up a job because you were in placement.
Yeah, because these places have excellent placement programs.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not one path is better than the other. It's just that one path is financially more lucrative than the other, and
more
so this
idea
of and I think it's a class thing. And I don't mean like an academic class. It's a class, like a societal thing where.
Yeah.
I was just telling somebody the other day, we were reminiscing about what was where downtown, and I said, that used to be Brooks Brothers. We had an actual Brooks Brothers men's shop in downtown.
Yeah.
And I said, my stepfather used to shop there a lot, and he would take his suit on the fishing boats with him, and he would wash up and change from his gear into the Brooks Brothers suit, and then come home. And I said, that's kind of unusual, John. Why would you do that? And he's like, well, when they see me in my business, and he said, it's not a suit, it's a business suit, because they assume it's like a Wednesday, there's no party for this guy to go to or something, I'm somebody. But when I come off that boat in my gear,
Yeah.
people look at me totally different.
Yeah, I think there certainly for a long time was a stigmatism with that. I could remember very vividly. I went to high school. I went to like a magnet high school in the city, and it was, you had a test into it. It was a public school, but it was like the best of the best kind of thing academically. And I had this one teacher in a foreign language class they had. He used to beat the point home to us. Very held himself a certain way. Nice guy, but I think kind of misguided. Especially in relation to kind of how it is these days. He used to tell us students, I remember, you want to study, you want to do good here because you don't want to be the plumber. You don't want to end up being the plumber. You don't want to end up being the plumber.
Geez, yeah.
And then you fast forward all these years later, and the reality of the situation is, Ron, that our plumber's probably been doing a lot better personally and professionally and money-wise than that guy probably ever did.
If you haven't seen, I think it was with Tom Hanks, if you haven't seen and Shelley Long, if you haven't seen The Money Pit, check it out, because that plumber comes ripping onto the property in a Porsche.
Yeah, it's true.
He's got more money than the homeowners.
It was almost like a premonition or something, because that is very true these days. I mean, I know these kids are making so much money in these trades that they don't like unless they have some guidance that you get the truck, get the mortgage, etc. They're just spending it stupidly.
So what? Final question is, I want to wrap it up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought Porsche is still buying. If you had a 20-year-old kid, you probably should not be buying a Porsche.
No, it would be too dangerous.
Just my guess.
Exactly. The final question is you're probably getting to that point right now in your career, in your life, where you're like reconsidering certain things. You love writing.
Yeah.
Would you retire into that and start, and pursue your literary? Because you do have, again, it's not just a technical book. It's just not a fluffy advertising thing. This is passionate. This is writing.
Yeah. What's funny? I'm just at a point in life where I enjoy doing so many different things. And as much as I enjoy writing, one of the biggest things that I kick myself all the time is there's just so many good books out there. I know I'm never going to have a chance to read as much as I want to. And I enjoy reading other people's works just as much, if not more, than writing my own. Since I started a journey of personal development about 10 years ago, and I read over 110 books since, and I keep a list of them running as I've done this. And there's just, that list could be tripled, and I still wouldn't read as many books as I'd want to read. I think it's an interesting question, but I think writing, I'm comfortable with the pace overall. Though I could pick it up a little bit. Just I've got a lot going on, but I'd love to kind of maybe pick that pace up a little bit. But overall, pretty content with that. But just reading other people's written works. That's something that, man, I wish I could squeeze more time into doing, because I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful, folks. If you've joined us somewhere in the middle of this, we've been speaking with Tom Lopatosky from LOPCO Contracting. He's a painting contractor, and he also does contracting work, repairs on houses, and sort of an odd guest. No, he's written 2 books on the care and feeding, so to speak, of your old home, and that takes literary skill. It's an art, and I really believe also too, because I do work on a painting crew, believe it or not, that it is an art. and I think in a lot of ways it's made me a better artist, because I can drop a straight line. Now I can paint a 15 light French door, with no tape or anything like that. And that's a hand and eye skill.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a hand and eye skill, and there's a sense of accomplishment there. So, as I always say when I end these, thank you, Tom.
Yeah, no, you're quite welcome, Ron. I appreciate you inviting me out to talk to you for a little bit today about things. It was awesome being on the show, and I just want to thank you again.
You're welcome. And as I always say, take care of yourself and be kind to other people. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the South Coast Artist Index podcast. For more information, please visit theartistindex.com.